Hello, I'm Alfonso Severos from Second Saturday. Right now, you are watching Health and Wellness with Rose Ann Green.
Welcome to another episode of Health and Wellness. I'm your host, Dr. Rose Ann Green. For over 20 years after experiencing an overwhelming amount of gut-related issues and receiving far too many misdiagnoses, Anthony Cascio discovered the ability and the magic of using food as a prescription. Meanwhile, on her own separate journey, Staci was diagnosed with several autoimmune disorders and in the process also found a path to using food as a prescription, a journey that proved to be difficult yet incredibly beneficial. Together with their understanding of food and its ability to heal, this dynamic duo decided to write a must-have handbook, sharing their own experiences, tips and tricks, favorite recipes and more, all with the aim of empowering and supporting others during their exploration or consideration of a gluten-free, soy-free, corn-free, and or dairy-free diet. The Lacassius are currently working on their second book, All We Do Is Delicious, Volume 1 cookbook. Anthony and Staci, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us today. Let's get straight into it. How a lifestyle change helped two professional tap dancers take their lives and careers back. Take us through your experiences with prescription drugs and how it has influenced your road to discovering food as your prescription.
You know, at some point in my life, I had a terrible thing happen to me while I was professionally performing as a tap dancer across the country. And I was offered some solutions by traditional medicine that included prescriptions and drugs and surgery and,
Western medicine.
Yeah, Western medicine. And there was no diagnosis, but there was all these suggestions. So I was a little cautious about, jumping.
About authorizing someone to cut into you.
Yeah, about authorizing someone to cut into me.
When there wasn't really a diagnosis. Nobody could say it's definitively X and treatment for X is Z, right? So to have someone tell you, oh, well, we don't really know what's wrong with you, but let's cut into you anyway. That's a little bit disturbing.
It's scary and it's upset. I guess the thing is I'm kind of having like a trauma moment because I'm thinking about that. I'm sweating because, I had prescription drugs that made me sicker, that made my heart do weird things, that didn't help. The side effects were worse than the positive, aspects that I was supposed to be getting. And it wasn't until I kind of removed all the drugs and went back to the root problems that we discovered food was really my solution. And by changing the food that I put in myself, changed the results I was getting. And the side effects of food were I stopped internally bleeding. I was able to calm down a little bit more, and I didn't have sugars and high fructose corn syrup and stuff that made me a little anxious.
And one of the first things he took out of his diet was
high fructose corn syrup. And eventually I realized that I didn't want drugs, I wanted food, and food was my true prescription. And Staci had a similar experience where she had medicines that woke up issues in her body that weren't there until those medications were introduced into her life.
Well, sort of.
Right?
I was born with what we later discovered was mast cell disorder, but often it goes dormant. Once you get that initial flare up handled. In my case, it was hives. Once I got the hives handled, once my parents got the hives handled, it kind of went dormant. And for many years, I had stomach issues, but it never really presented itself in a way that was tangible. And I wound up with a bacteria in my throat at one point in my life, and I was prescribed a specific antibiotic. And then I started having all sorts of crazy symptoms, and I love to do research. So I researched that particular antibiotic and found out that it was one of many known prescribed drugs to bring out dormant autoimmune disorders in a person.
Yeah, so I guess the side effects of food are the solutions we need. And the side effects of the medications weren't things
Mask.
that we
They mask
they mask
everything.
the issue. They don't really solve the problem, but food solved our problems.
Wow, wow, what a story. Oh my gosh, that's really inspiring, Anthony and Staci. Let's look at also, looking back, how has it been gluten-free, enhances your life, and what are the positive changes that occur being gluten-free?
Yes, it's lessened the inflammatory, inflammation in my body,
Your joints, yeah.
in my joints. I lost about 30 pounds by cutting out gluten and dairy because my body, I wasn't heavy, I was swollen. There's a difference, you could see it. I was swollen, and taking those things out allowed my joints to get better. I was internally bleeding for 20 years, and it wasn't until Dr. Rob, a friend, that we have in common, who, with my wife, introduced me to the foods, and then I was able to stop internally bleeding. Medicine couldn't stop me from internally bleeding. I wasn't going to let them give me surgery to try to cut a section of my intestine out, and then, let that part of intestine get sick again. So, yes, I sleep better, I feel better, I have more energy.
It's almost
It's like night and
not
day.
instantaneous.
No, it takes a little time.
But you can already start to feel effects after one day. When you start on day one, let's say, and then you go to sleep that night and you wake up the next day, you can already feel how much less inflammation is in your body.
Yeah.
Already. And it obviously even gets better as you progress over time, but I think that's the main point, is that I noticed such a change when I did start changing my food that I never wanted to go back to eating those other foods that harmed my body or caused my body inflammation, or taking those prescription drugs, because I didn't want to feel like that again.
I didn't miss pizza and bread and all the things that I used to love, because now I saw them as harmful to me, and they were poisonous.
Yeah.
Like, I literally feel like these things are poison to me now, because a great example, we went out to dinner together and we ordered at a place that we go to frequently. We only frequent a couple places because they know us, but we ordered at a place, and for some reason that night they cooked our food in soy instead of olive oil. And at the dinner table, my skin started feeling weird, and Staci didn't feel well, and we knew it right away. And we asked them to check in the kitchen, and sure enough, they had made a mistake with our order.
I had to immediately go to the bathroom.
Yeah, it's so once this stuff is out of your body for a while, man, if you don't feel it the next day when you stop, you sure as heck know the value of it when you get poisoned, when it gets into your system unexpectedly.
Yeah.
Wow, wow, wow. I'm sure my viewers, they're very inspired by these stories, and not just stories, but experiences that you guys have gone through, and now the new normal in your life that is enhancing your life. Let's look at what to do when you or a loved one has been told to go gluten-free. Share some favorite tips and tricks as it relates to that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, one of the things so when we met, I wasn't gluten-free, soy-free, corn-free, and sometimes dairy-free. She already was. And she was trying to explain to me what it meant to live like that. And I tried my best to understand. And I wanted her to know that I was listening. So one of the first things we came up with was a food card, right? Yeah. So we talked about #food card. And I basically went online and I made a business card that said, "Hi, my name is Staci. These are the things that make me ill or sick. Please, while you're making my food, change your gloves and help me avoid gluten, corn, soy, dairy, and blah, blah."
It also helped the waiter.
Right, and I was going to say, and it made it really easy for the server to take her order. Because, there's things that you think you can't do anymore. When you're suggested to take these things out of your life, it's devastating, traumatic even, right? Because you're like, well, that's all I ever eat. When you start, so there's a couple of things that you do. One of the other things that we do, that we recommend or ask you to do for a loved one, is make a list of the things that you can eat. Don't concentrate on what you can't eat. make a list of the things that you can eat. And then you discover that list is pretty long.
Yeah.
And you immediately start to feel better. So, that card, giving it to a server means that when you go out to eat, you could quickly and easily relay your allergies or concerns to the server and to the kitchen.
Yeah.
So that takes a lot of mystery out of the difficulty of dining out or letting somebody know what, making that list of things that you can eat. It totally changes what your grocery list looks like, but it also makes it easier.
I think also one of the biggest things is one of the first things that people want to do is run out and buy everything that says gluten-free on it. And unfortunately, that isn't always the best answer because it can have other hidden allergens or hidden forms of gluten, which if you don't know what those are, it's easily found by a nice search online. And familiarize yourself with those ingredients so that when you are reading the labels of the food, if you're out at a grocery store or something like that, or even if you're at a restaurant. And sometimes, listen, things have changed so much in the time that I started this food journey that now restaurants have allergen lists for their food. They didn't really have that when I started this journey. And it's definitely gotten a lot better, but really just being open and honest with the people you're around, I think is the number one tip,
so that
read everything, know what you're putting into your body or around. It's not just food. It's also like we have eliminated
lotions,
candles with
toothpaste,
soy, shampoo, everything that you put on or around your skin or body needs to be looked at.
I think,
Wow. It leads me to my next question. What are the most frequent myths you hear about going gluten-free? Because I'm sure you heard a lot. Just share with us the most frequent ones that you hear persons will share with you, or you'll hear online or see online. Share with us.
It's not a fad. It's not a trend. And I should say work. Yeah, it concerns me when society treats it that way because then it opens up opportunities for things like bullying. And I know that everybody always talks about bullying and all these other things, but I was bullied as a kid because I'm a dancer. But there was another family that I know who I was teaching their daughter, and they were concerned one day because someone was threatening her son with a peanut butter sandwich in school because they didn't understand the severity of a peanut allergy. Now, I joke around and say you can't give her certain things because she'll die. Gluten, corn, soy, dairy, right? But I say that so people understand and remember. But with a peanut allergy, people have to carry an EpiPen with them. It's that serious. So when we treat things like gluten or corn or soy or peanuts or any of these things,
any type of allergen.
Shellfish is another one you need an EpiPen.
Yeah.
If we don't actually respect that these things are true and honest, then we could sometimes treat them, we could disregard them in a way that could be dangerous. You could have, if servers who I've seen a trend change drastically, especially in nicer restaurants, but sometimes you'll see a server. I just read a story the other day on Facebook about this parent who had their daughter in sandwich shop. And I don't want to name the sandwich shop. In sandwich shop, and the daughter had watched the mother say, yep, and please make sure it's a gluten-free bread because my daughter is celiac. And the server rolled their eyes, pushed their shoulders, okay, and they had to go change their gloves, and for them it's a big deal, and they don't want to do it. And that's really unfair to the child because now the child says, Mom, is there something wrong with me? Are people not going to like me my whole life? That's not okay.
Anybody who's different.
Yeah, and I will tell you, and this one I will mention, and she said before some restaurants now have a little food, like allergen cards, and they do, is Chipotle. Man, I haven't had fast food in a very, very long time, but when I really, really need something, there's a couple of staples that I could rely on, and Chipotle is one of them. And they do have a card, and their employees are knowledgeable, and they change their gloves, and they're happy to get your food from the back, from the line that hasn't been touched.
They treat it with respect.
They treat it with respect. And you know what? I get to vote with my dollars. And if there's one place that when I'm out and about and I just need food and I don't have a way, I will go into a Chipotle, and 99% of the time we have a good experience, even in Manhattan, which is a busy place. So, you know, if you ever do go somewhere and you don't feel safe, it's okay to walk out. One of the things we talk about is you have to be your own advocate in how you find out what you need for your own health and in getting those things. And you should never feel ashamed about that. Your health, you don't get to play with people's health. You just don't. So that's a very actually serious thing to me, and it's really important to me that that's part of the message that gets out there, because I don't want to see anyone get bullied or die over a peanut butter sandwich. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but oh my God, we're at the point where that's true. And the same thing, I don't want to send somebody home with them having headaches, feeling sick, running to the bathroom, you know, their skin getting irritated because a server who didn't understand how serious it was allowed gluten or corn or soy or dairy into somebody else's food.
Wow. My viewers are just saying, listen, we can't wait to try this. We can't wait to read the book together with your understanding of food and its ability to heal. Both of you decided to write a must-have handbook, sharing your own experiences, tips and tricks, favorite recipes, and more. Your book, Food as a Prescription. Share with us about what the objective of the book, and how it can help others.
Okay. You know, when I was told I had to change my diet, not that I had to, that I would benefit from changing my diet, I didn't understand. I trusted what my wife was saying to me, but I didn't really understand. I trusted what Dr. Rob was saying to me, but I didn't really know what to do. And I feel like that's the question everybody has. Well, now I've been given this solution. Oh, what do I do? I don't know what to do.
How do I implement that?
Yeah. So that's why we wrote a book, and it's a handbook because it's a short read. It's quick and easy. It's to the point. It's chock full of information. It's got solutions. It's relatable and tells stories and antidotes, so you know you're not alone. We offer you a support system.
We wish we knew when we had started our own journey.
Exactly.
Because it takes a while. Once you start a journey, it takes a while really to really feel comfortable in that journey and know that you're making the right decisions for your health when you read a label. You know, I still at the grocery store sometimes have to type in an ingredient and search what it is and what the derivative of is it, so that I know I'm not putting something into my body that it won't tolerate well. And I don't know if people realize that they can do that sort of thing.
It's useless to get the suggestion if you don't have the means or the tools or the other things that empower you to put that suggestion into action, into practice. So in my mind, when we wrote this book, the idea was if you found out one morning or even afternoon that you had to change your diet this drastically, that you could pick up this book or pamphlet, read it before you went to bed that night, and take the anxiety you felt earlier that day and squash it by the time you went to bed that night. So the next day you woke up in a positive mindset and knew that you were going to be successful on your new journey because you had something that was going to give you all the things you need, or a really good amount of the things you need to be successful.
And
you know?
We have a few recipes in the back.
You do.
And, you know, I think that
it was hard to pick those particular ones.
Well, we tried to give a breakfast recipe.
Yeah, which ones did we do?
We tried to give, you know, kind of a lunch or a snack and a dinner and a dessert, so that someone who's brand new to this lifestyle could just follow every single recipe that's in there and have a meal that day, or even for 2 days, really.
I want to tell you what they are, because you'll get it. Like, we tell you how to mix an all-purpose flour, right? Because every good kitchen needs flour. With those flours, you can make pancakes and waffles. So we put a pancakes and waffles in there. Then if you want to have a salad, we put this really awesome mustard vinaigrette in there. There's a dry rub chicken wings, a lemon butter shrimp, and then chocolate chip cookies. And did we put the carrot cake in there? No, right? No, and that's it. But in the chapter before that, something we don't really talk about and make a big deal about is also we include the example of a food diary and give you the ability to go download a food diary off our website.
Free copy.
The free copy, because it's important, and it's another tool that you could use to learn, if I eat these things today and write it down and know what I had, do I or do I not react tomorrow, and how do I feel? Now tomorrow, if I eat these things, how do I feel, and what? So there's good things in here that'll just instantly give you the tools you need, support for success. And I'm glad you asked us that, because
support and guidance.
Man, I had anxiety. I was like, okay, I'm going to do this because I have a support system, but I don't know what to do. Yeah. And if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have known what to do, because we lived together. So she was my angel on my wing, guru person watching over me the whole time.
I mean, I had been cooking my own stuff, at the same time that he would have something else. But most of the time, even before he committed to eliminating gluten and dairy specifically, originally from his diet, he would just eat what I cooked because it was easier. And, we talk about cross-contamination, and yes, you can't use the same pots and pans as someone else in your household that isn't adapting to the same lifestyle, because it's what they call cross-contamination. Yeah. And it could make the other person sick.
And I have to tell you, there is an association with gluten-free, soy-free, corn-free, dairy-free food that it doesn't taste good. Yeah. Right? So we've come up with an expression around here, and it's all we do is delicious, because there was no way I was going to change my diet and not everything be absolutely delicious, because that's a must. That's a deal breaker, kind of. I would have done what I had to do to be healthy, but it's got to be delicious. So that was an important element of our journey. We're going to make it taste really, really good. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we're not going to try to replace exactly the foods that we have emotional or cultural attachment to. We're going to try to make new choices with better ingredients that don't harm us, that can take the place of, that we're not replacing, but we're, what do you say? We're not replacing.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what I sum that up to is, I'm not going to try to replace the things that I miss. I'm going to find new things to love.
There you go. That's it.
And one of the things I brought back in my life is fruit. People say, I need a snack. I'm like, well, you don't have to buy a snack in a bag. You could eat apples, oranges, grapes, bananas, pineapple, melon. Those were all things that came back in my life. And I loved them when I was a kid, but I lost them over the years. But they came back in a big way now. So, you rediscover things, or you find new things to love. If you try to replace things you love, you can be setting yourself up for a little bit of failure. But you could do variations of it. I missed lasagna. And I finally made butternut squash and Italian sausage lasagna, and it came out great. So there's things out there, and you could get that. And you could enjoy the journey. It doesn't have to come from a negative place, or like you're sacrificing something. This isn't about sacrifice. This is about discovery. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Inspiring, Staci, inspiring Anthony, because so many persons have so many reservations when it comes to gluten-free and soy-free. They're like, food will not be enjoyable anymore. So I'm really ecstatic that someone that experienced it can share with us the experience and their experience, so that they can help others who decide to go gluten-free. Thank you so much, Staci, for sharing, and Anthony for sharing that with us. Wow, I'm sure it's going to be beneficial, not just to those persons in the US, but wherever they are in the world. It will definitely be beneficial to everyone, wherever you are, no matter what your geography is, wherever your demographic, whatever demographic it is, it will definitely be beneficial. Let's look at it. You both are currently working on your second book, All We Do Is Delicious, Volume 1 cookbook, and recently created the Local Foods, how persons can buy your book, and talk to us about the second book and your objective of writing a second book.
Well, the ultimate thing kind of here is that when there's things that we want and love, and they're just not out there for us anymore. So we're going to create them. And some of the things
they are to a certain extent, but let's
they're not
say
delicious.
It has dairy in it, right?
Right,
So
right.
that means I can't have it.
Right.
But I could create my own dairy-free version.
Yeah. So we kind of started with, I wish these things existed, like a really good meat rub that's easy to use, or something that I could put on my pork, or a nice like a salad dressing. So that's why some of those recipes kind of came around, because we weren't finding these things in the form of recipes online or in stores.
Where
so we were like,
can exist.
yeah, so we were like, well, let's create a food line. And I was like, well, creating a food line takes a lot of money that we don't have. So then it became, well, let's do a cookbook. And we're like, well, a cookbook's a good idea, but
how are people going to find
how are people going to, they need to learn how to enjoy this food, enjoy this lifestyle first, or, get past the anxiety of even becoming gluten-free, soy-free, corn-free, right? So it all came back to, let's do the handbook first and help people with their mindset and everything they need. Then we could put out a cookbook. And then in the cookbook, we'll give them all the recipes that we really love. So we ended this book, the first book, with some recipes to lead into the idea of a cookbook, because we want everybody to have things that are delicious. That's important to us. Food is love to me. I'm Italian. And it's really great that it's a lot of fun that, people that used to come to our house used to bring their own food with them. We were like, listen, you have to keep it over there. And that turned into, hey, what you're eating really smells good. Can I taste yours? And we were like, well, no, because we only made enough for us. And then in the future, people would be like, hey, listen, when we come, we want to eat what you're eating this time. So it kind of grew into now when we cook, people want to come over because they don't care what's in the food. They just know it's delicious.
Yeah, it's delicious.
What eventually will happen is there's the wing recipe in the first book. There is a rib recipe in the second book, which I think is one of the stars of the show. And then eventually we'll take the things that people don't have the time to make at home on their own, like the rub, or take the time, make them available in a quick, easy way to buy them, like on Amazon or the foods. But the in between of our trio here is the cookbook. So we have, I don't know, we're going to take about 30 recipes. And roughly, and tell a little story about each recipe, and just give people more of an opportunity to get to know us and the food we make and the food they can make at home, and it's going to be delicious. Don't worry about what's in it. You don't need to use the old ingredients to make something delicious. There's other ingredients out there that you could use to make things delicious.
Yeah, I discovered so many things that I didn't know that I liked. Throughout this entire process that came to me over 10 years ago. I started this journey.
It's on all major platforms. It's on Readsy. It's on, it's on Goodreads. It's on Amazon. It's at Barnes and Nobles. We are currently in a campaign to get it into a couple of other places, so you can keep your eyes open. But there's definitely physical copies that you can get online, because I know a lot of people, it's a handbook, so you want to keep it handy. You want to bring it with you places. If you like to do the digital thing, that's great. I love technology. We couldn't have this conversation today without technology. But this particular book, it seems that a lot of people want the physical copy. So you can get that on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles. Yeah, Barnes and Noble. There's no S in Noble.
No, there's not.
Oh, thank you, Staci and Anthony, for sharing with us, my viewers, that this conversation was very intriguing, interesting, eye-opening, all of that and much more, especially now when we're dealing with COVID-19. We want to stay healthier, boost our immune system, ensuring whatever we're putting in the body is very good. So I really appreciate you, Anthony and Staci, for joining us today in this episode to share your story, to share your experiences, and to share it with not just me, but with all my viewers, wherever they are, watching all over the world. Thank you so much. This has been another episode of Health and Wellness. I am your host, Dr. Rosen Green. Thanks for watching.